It really shifted just my way of thinking in terms of working in a very diverse population and living in a diverse city. Just seeing, people that are struggling to people that are very happy, two opposite sides of the spectrum. And sometimes when I don't think about that, I go on autopilot, and then, sometimes I might say something that might affect someone, right? So I really try to, this program has helped me slow down and really think out of the box of, what am I doing to help someone else, or am I affecting them in a good way or a bad way?
We had done a lot of work in our county around cultural humility already. We'd had Dr. Hardy in our community a number of times speaking, Dr. DeGrew, if you're familiar with her, and as well as Dr. Turbalon, who's referenced in the trauma book. So for me, it was just more of a really solidifying and just kind of confirming what I already knew, that you cannot have a trauma-informed system if you're not really listening and hearing people's realities and acknowledging their realities and looking at how those realities are reflected or not reflected in the work you do and the way you create your system of care for folks.
I went to the training, and then I was like, oh, this is powerful stuff. And then I applied to become a trainer. And as I applied to become a trainer, you get all this additional suggested material. And one was an excerpt from How the Body Keeps Score, or The Body Keeps Score, from Bessel van der Kolk, I think his name is. And then I went and got the book, right? And in that book, I knew that I had survived a lot of stuff in my lifetime. But in that book, chapter after chapter, I saw my story over and over. And it gave a name. It gave it, complex trauma. It gave it PTSD. And then it gave it solutions. So from there, I went and explored EMDR, right? And talked to my health insurance and got coverage, and lo and behold, I'm a survivor of PTSD and complex trauma. I had no idea. I knew I had all the symptoms, but I didn't know there was a word for it, and I didn't know there were treatment options for it. So I've been able, and that stuff has been like magic in my life, and I have been able to heal so many triggers and wounds so that I can navigate through the world, not constantly triggered and reacting to my childhood. So it's been really transformative for me.
Coming from a law enforcement background, we think of trauma as universally, I work in juveniles, so most of the kids we work with are traumatized in one fashion or another. So, but we don't think of it in the context of what's happened to them, because when we're working with them, it's in the juvenile justice system. And so the focus has traditionally been, what have they done? Now we're beginning to have language and context to be able to work with trauma-impacted youth from the standpoint of what's happened to them and how can we provide service to assist them. So I think that that's really the biggest shift. Cultural humility is also the other piece to it, because previously the concept was cultural competency, and the idea that one person can be competent in another person's culture is kind of misdirected, right? But the idea that you can be humble and exercise humility in relation to someone else's cultural background, I think is really a more humanistic way to approach the work. So I think it really helps us in that regard to conceptualize it differently and approach the people and the families that we work with differently.
Being part of TIS training has shifted my understanding of trauma and cultural sensitivity by, I think, what some of us trainers are calling the bumper sticker of TIS, which is, instead of saying or thinking what is wrong with you, reframing it to what has happened. What that's done for me is now brought the whole person into the conversation, where, again, historically, coming from corrections, you tend to stay on the worst moment, or the most current of all the worst moments. And from there, you're addressing that. I think that that's a normal process in corrections, that we do have to address the immediate because of safety and security, either to the individual or the community. But with this, what has happened, and putting that at the forefront, it's now a challenge because you're having to do both at the same time. Not only you're having to focus what's at stake. If I don't act now, if I don't make the appropriate decision, what's at stake? But you're also already looking ahead as to what are possible solutions down the road in terms of treatment. Because now this person is not just the bad guy that needs to be scooped out of the community and put in a box. This individual, either now or later, is going to have to reintegrate. And before that happens, what services are available? So I think that has helped. That just that quote, bumper sticker, has helped me progress to the next stage.
So my own understanding of it, like I said earlier, kind of mentioned earlier, it like set off this bell for me personally. Not just as an employee of Edgewood, not just in my role, not with all the the years of experience, the many different initiatives that I've had landed on our plate, that have kind of fizzled away due to many different reasons. But this also hit with me as a father, as a husband, as a community member, which kind of blew my mind. Like, I find myself in my daily life, not just at work, applying a lot of these principles. And it's such a, I don't know, it's a great reminder. And even my kids at home, my wife, like it's come, like full circle for me.
I'm a marriage and family therapist, so trained in working with trauma, but that's really on an individual and a family level, and getting to be a part of this regional movement has been really powerful to see when we're changing systems that we need to have a systemic approach. And that's been really powerful to see, okay, how are we going to make these structural changes? Same thing with the cultural humility piece. If an organization is committed to bringing in trauma-informed care, that this gives us an opportunity to have those really difficult conversations.
I used to think of trauma like individual trauma and complex trauma, and now I think of just a vast, just a vastness to what trauma is, and that it's in everything, it's in everything and everybody. You're not going to escape trauma in some way.
I've had a desire to be in trauma-informed systems, moving towards healing communities for a very long time. And from my own lived experience, and also from being in the work, I thought that I was as trauma-informed as they come. I thought, hey, I got this down, I just need to go there to get a little, but when I came into the training, it really softened me and opened my eyes, and has had me put people into sharp relief as humans. And I thought I was all about humanity before, and I see that I was probably a little defensive at times, and triggered by my own stuff, and that now I'm able to understand when I'm getting up and someone else is getting up, I don't keep going, right? I'm able to say, look, how are you doing? What's going on? So it really opened me up to the fact that, there's a lot for me to learn to keep going.
What I think is that it's more that the understanding in some ways has been here. Some of the training, some of what we read, some of what we teach are concepts that I'm familiar with and was familiar with. But what it has done is sharpened my focus. It's created there's a word, and I'm not even sure if I'm using this word correctly, but when you think about keening, this kind of keen sight, or being able to sharpen focus, and to see all of what we're doing through a lens of both trauma and wellness. How are we moving towards wellness and resiliency? To really pay attention to the way the culture impacts not only our one-on-one interactions, but our, the systems within the school. I also work within a health clinic, work within a huge healthcare system. So really sharpening my vision there, and then to be able to have my actions and behaviors, when I'm able to slow down, kind of come from that place or that awareness.